Good morning. Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome back to the Sean Starr Show. The morning after the night that was, the Montreal Canadiens coming up on the wrong end of a 2-1 scoreline, losing in the skills competition to the red-hot Dallas Stars. Dallas rolled up to the Bell Center waiting for the Montreal Canadiens. Dallas had a couple of days off between games, so Dallas spent Saturday in Montreal chilling, maxing, and relaxing simultaneously, while the Montreal Canadiens, fresh off their victory in Washington on Friday night, didn't get back to Montreal until about 2:45 in the morning, Saturday morning, as they prepared for the Dallas Stars. Canadians didn't have a skate, obviously, in the morning because they didn't get back till 3. Who knows what time they finally tucked themselves into bed and ultimately fell asleep on Saturday morning after beating the Capitals in Washington and really doing a great job of minimizing any damage whatsoever that Washington was able to do in their barn. So Montreal plays a tight game. Didn't have their legs really in the first period Saturday in front of the home fans with Sam Montembeault back in goal. But there's a few things I want to touch on that remain rather impressive around this Montreal Canadiens team on this Sunday morning. So as we wait for people to slowly but surely file their way in to the stream this morning, we can clearly take a look at what's going on with the Montreal Canadiens on this Sunday as it relates to where they are in terms of the wild card after losing 2-1 to Dallas at the Bell Center last night. So that was game number 42 as the Canadiens finally embark on the second half of their season, and I do have an unbelievable stat to relay to you in a second. But first, Montreal with 44 points after 42 games. So what does that mean? The Columbus Blue Jackets are absolutely red hot. They've won 4 in a row in 7 of their last 10, and as a direct result, have themselves 46 points and right now ownership of the second wild card in the Eastern Conference. And while I have your attention as it relates to the Columbus Blue Jackets this season, how impressed are we by this team in Columbus? I mean, considering what their offseason looked like, what they went through with the loss of one of their brothers, so having to deal with that emotion and then having to deal with it mentally in order to think about Johnny Gaudreau, play for Johnny Gaudreau, who, if you don't know what I'm talking about, Johnny Gaudreau and his brother got killed by a drunk driver before their sister's wedding this past summer. And it's why Cole Caulfield wears number 13, and the Columbus Blue Jackets have themselves quite the first half of the season, to the point where, we're talking about, here they are with 46 points, one back of Boston. The Bruins reeling. They've have only 3 wins in their last 10 games, and don't look now, but the Ottawa Senators also on the come up. Let's look back at Ottawa for a second. Ottawa had a big win yesterday. That was just their 4th in their last 10, but they're just 1 point back of both Montreal and Pittsburgh, with the Red Wings, winners of 6 in a row, also in hot pursuit. This second half of the season is going to be everything, and that's why we spoke briefly yesterday about the approach here, about the approach mentally, in terms of keeping your head down, your chin tucked into your chest, and don't look up. Don't think about where you are in the standings. Don't go to bed last night looking at the out-of-town scoreboard, what other teams are doing, and how does that impact the Montreal Canadiens, who have been a top 5 team in the league since December 3rd. So here we are together on this 12th day of January, with Montreal still very much in the mix. But since December 3rd, which we can pinpoint and put a pin in and talk about a TSN turning point of the Canadian season, certainly. December 3rd, Patrick Laine makes his return to the Montreal Canadiens lineup after getting crunched and his knee in the preseason against Toronto. And it looked like maybe his season was over before it began. Laine decides to go for the non-invasive option to rehab his hurt knee. Reinbacher goes the other way. His season is over. Laine comes back, misses 5 games for flu-like reasons, gets back into the lineup on Saturday. We had a commentator on yesterday's live chat asking me what I thought the chances of Patrick Laine playing on Saturday night. My answer was 95%. Well, make it 100% because Laine scored his 9th goal of the season, and it came on the power play, and that got the goal scoring started for Montreal. They finally beat Jake Ottinger, who I thought had himself a game yesterday and was impenetrable in the shootout. But Montreal and the Canadiens moved to 12-5-1 since December the 3rd, What does that mean in terms of the overall league? What the league has done to a team since December 3rd up until last night, and here we are Sunday morning together on this 12th day of January. Montreal being 12-5-1 since December 3rd has them tied for 5th. Montreal has accumulated the 5th most points in the entire National Hockey League from December 3rd up until last night's pickup of 1 point when they lost in a shootout to Dallas in a 2-1 final. So, yeah, it's a pretty big sample size. You know, we're talking about 18 games the Canadiens have played since December the 3rd. And the fact that they have been more than just competitive, they have been a top 5 team in hockey. And yes, obviously Patrick Laine's insertion into the lineup has a lot to do with that for Martin St. Louis. But there's another thing I want to talk to you about. I want to give you a reason that I believe helps explain what's going on with the Montreal Canadiens, okay? And I don't mean to be, I don't mean to be profane on a Sunday morning on the Lord's Day. You know, I don't want to use expletives. So instead, I'm going to talk about the FU attitude. FU attitude, okay? Because I could tell you from an extremely reliable source, the source is the guy that's doing it. So take me at my word when I tell you that the Montreal Canadiens have been practicing their FU attitude. If we look back at the beginning portion of this season for the Montreal Canadiens, okay? Let's go back to October the 9th when the Montreal Canadiens season began. And let's look at this together. There was that incredible 1-0 win. Sam Montembeault, 48 saves, right? Montreal shuts down Toronto, opens up the season. Then they get squashed by Boston on the road. The very next night, it's in a 6-4 final. Come back to beat Ottawa 4-1. And then it starts. 6-3 loss, 4-1 loss, 4-3 shootout loss, 7-2 drubbing by the New York Rangers. Montreal rights the ship, but briefly, with 5-2 wins and 4-3 wins over St. Louis and Philadelphia, respectively. And then the poopy parade starts raining down on the Canadiens. They give up 14 goals in 2 games between an 8-2 loss to Seattle and a 6-3 loss to Washington. Then they lose to Pittsburgh, Calgary, New Jersey, Toronto. A 7-5 win over Buffalo. Remember that crazy shootout game? That's where Juraj Slafkovsky looked dominant, throwing Owen Power all over the place. And then losing at Minnesota 3-0. But if you remember, that 3-0 loss to Minnesota wasn't as bad as the score. Montreal was in that game against a tough and very deep team in the Minnesota Wild. But we go through that prolonged losing, that prolonged no compete, where Montreal would, as Martin St. Louis had said, throw up on themselves continually, always help out the other team, an avalanche of mistakes, of lack of confidence. And when Montreal would make a mistake, the other team generally, seemingly, always capitalized on that mistake. And Montreal just couldn't stop the bleeding, right? And so something had happened where Martin St. Louis, and David Savard alluded to this after the game in Montreal against Dallas on Saturday night. The coach is always trying to be better. The coach is always trying to do something different. The coach is always trying to improve. You know, he wants the team to get better, but he himself as an individual, as a coach, also wants to get better, okay? And one of the things the Montreal Canadiens had identified, and I don't disagree with it one bit, the Montreal Canadiens in the early goings of the season were soft. They were soft. They were soft physically, and they were soft mentally because they lack confidence. And we can perhaps get into the reasons why they lack confidence, mistakes, systems, goaltending, lack of experience, and all of those things add up to where, you know, some of the veterans are like, oh my gosh, they got to play extra tight, they're overthinking, yada, yada, yada. So the Montreal Canadiens went out and decided to bring in a consultant, someone that had played in the National Hockey League, someone that had a very tough reputation when they did play in the National Hockey League, and they brought that person in. And they pulled a few guys aside. And we could talk about some of those guys. Jaden Struble, Arbor Jacki, Michael Pezzetta. Those are 3 guys I know for a fact that have worked with this former NHL tough guy. And this NHL tough guy, not in the league anymore, has been working with the Montreal Canadiens on a here and there basis. Has been working with them in Montreal, working on various techniques, whether it's in a potential confrontation with another player, or working on a general attitude in how to handle yourself should this, that, or the other happen in a game after a whistle or in front of your goaltender. And, we know hockey is one of the ultimate team games in North American sports, maybe the most team oriented game in North America. And not only do you have to have the talent, the talent is there. Everybody's in the National Hockey League because they're very talented. But what about the attitude? What about the separation? What makes you different, tougher, harder to match up against than who you're playing tonight? And, when Dallas comes here, Dallas rolled into the Bell Center Saturday feeling good about themselves. They were rested. Montreal had confidence, right? They had played and won in Washington the night before, limiting the Capitals to 17 total shots. Dallas had 17 shots after 20 minutes last night. So Montreal was a little bit tired, a little bit mentally affected by the grind because the schedule makers have pummeled the Canadiens. And guess what? It doesn't get easier this week. They got 4 games coming up, 2 on the road, 2 at home. And they play Monday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. That's the Canadiens' week, and 2 late games coming up this week. We'll talk about the Canadiens' schedule in a second. But I can tell you for a fact that the Canadiens have been working on getting better with their FU attitude. And I think there's a correlation to the Canadiens getting an attitude adjustment, to the Canadiens getting better structurally, to the Canadiens finding balance through their 4 lines with Patrik Laine back, making Kirby Dach look better. Alex Newhook is getting better. And then the Alex Carrier trade to help shore up more reliable minutes, more steady play, reliable play on the Canadiens' back end. That rounds out their their 6 defensemen on any given night. And then we could talk about the Jakub Dobeš effect. So all of these things, that whole timeline of getting a tough guy to teach the Montreal Canadiens to be a little bit nastier, be meaner. Patrik Laine's contribution to the balance of the Montreal Canadiens forward lines. There's a correlation to Laine's 9 power play goals, Kirby Dach growing and looking more confident as a player, Alex Newhook looking more dangerous, and the Canadiens have 4 lines. The first line had been going. Suzuki, Caulfield, we're not worried about them. The Jake Evans line had been going really well. Christian Dvorak's line had been performing well. Emil Heinemann's having a very nice rookie season. Yoel Armia's game has been complementary to the Jake Evans, Emil Heineman combination. Christian Dvorak has found something there with Josh Anderson and Brendan Gallagher. And it was important that, that those bottom 2 lines have been reliable all season. I don't think anyone's going to argue that today. But making sure, and we spoke about this in October and into early November, that Kirby Dach was the biggest X factor on the Montreal Canadiens. And I think he proves just that by how his season began, where his season is at after the shootout loss in Dallas, against Dallas at the Bell Center on Saturday night. So Montreal 12-5-1 since December the 3rd. That is tied for the 5th most points in the entire National Hockey League. And I think I gave you many reasons to explain why Montreal got to 12-5-1 and why they're on a 4-game point streak. And granted, they've gone 4 straight games past regulation, as the Montreal Canadiens structurally have played a lot tighter and less mistake prone, which is just great for the St. Louis, for the goaltending, for the defensemen. And we could talk about, again, why the Canadiens have been where they are. That FU attitude, bringing in a former NHL tough guy to help get them over the hump, to make them think the game in a different way. And you saw it in Washington. You saw Caden Gooley this week be more comfortable laying guys out. What did Cole Caulfield say after the win over Vancouver? We'd say just crush guys, laying guys out about Caden Gooley. And Caden Gooley, for a lot of his junior career, that was the reason why he was so coveted as a future NHL prospect, because he could seemingly do it all. And now Caden Gooley's getting more and more comfortable to the point where he's beginning to lay guys out and make smart decisions when he does want to lay someone out. But last night, Josh Anderson leveling the boom. Josh Anderson, Matt Dumba, you don't want to get nasty with Josh Anderson, especially you got that full visor on. But nevertheless, Patrik Laine Patrick Laine leveling the boom. I thought Laine's game Saturday night got better as the game grew on. Interesting decision by Coach Martin St. Louis to throw 92 out there on 3-on-3 hockey. Not the fastest guy, but again, the coach has a feel for things. But that was the first time that Montreal, since I guess the midway point of December, had not won the second game of the back-to-back. They were 3-0 in the second game of back-to-backs recently before losing to Dallas in the shootout. Some of the conversation in terms of what y'all are saying, let's get to it here. Thank you so much for contributing to the program. Thank you so much. Amazing picture of your dog in the background there. Yeah, that's my old boy. That's Leon. That was one of my first rescues, and we lost Leon in 2021 to cancer. It went by so quickly, and that painting there actually was done by a listener of mine because they knew how much I loved my Leonski, and still miss him on the daily. Hank, our new rescue that we've had for a couple of years now, has decided not to enter the chat today, so I apologize for that. Thank you, though, for the comment. Thought the big boys played like big boys with great body checks. I think last night there were more broken sticks than ever before. Thank you, Costa, for that. Yeah, at one point there was a little bit of a yard sale going on. I'd still love to see Laine on the first line, says Costa. No, not for me. Not for me personally. Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, again, continue to play like the best players for the Montreal Canadiens. Juraj Slafkovsky had a strong game against the Capitals. A little less noticeable, I thought, Saturday against the Dallas Stars, but nevertheless, I like the way Montreal has been playing in terms of their physical element, and I gave you a good reason why that is. Ghislaine Laframboise. What's up, Raspberries? Hi, Sean. To be honest, last night, Dallas was dominating the Canadiens. Monte kept the Habs in the game. We needed that 5-on-3 to score a goal. Dallas is in another league. Merci, Ghislaine, pour le commentaire ce dimanche matin. Comment ça va, mes amis? Dallas is in another league. The Canadiens are in another league right there with them. Montreal, for the better part of a month, has been a top 5 team points-wise in the National Hockey League, 12-5-1, as I want to remind you consistently here this morning. And Montreal looked like the more tired team. A reason, an excuse, a legitimate reason to me. Montreal got back into the city at around 3 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning. Dallas was here waiting, rested, eating nice steak dinners in Old Montreal, getting ready to play the Canadiens at the Bell Center on a Saturday night. And again, Montreal had limited Washington to 17 total shots, including 0 in the last 8:47 of regulation. Dallas had 17 shots in the first period last night. Ghislaine's other half of his commentary is correct. Sam Montembeault, acrobatic save after acrobatic save, as the Canadiens' goaltending situation has really, really leveled itself out, hasn't it? More from Costa, Martin St. Louis, Ken Hughes, unshaved, subliminal message. We're going to the playoffs. I can read into that. Let's go, baby. I'm here for that. Yossi, what's up, Yossi? Good morning. Yes, indeed. What a week. What a week. As Montreal had been 3-0 in the second game of back-to-backs, but losing in a shootout to the Dallas Stars last night on the Bell Center Ice, as Montreal begins a new week coming up on Tuesday. They play at 9 o'clock at Utah. They play at Dallas Thursday night at 8 o'clock. Then Montreal is back home for a couple of heavyweights from the Eastern Conference with a Saturday night tilt with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and then Sunday night against the New York Rangers. That's what's coming up this week, as Yossi is liking what the Montreal Canadiens week has brought to the table. Chris Hansen, no one's going to say anything on Dach until next year. He will be fully healed and most likely be playing with Laine and Demidov. And that's fine. Lots of people have been very comfortable giving, Kirby Dach more or less a season's pass for whatever happens to him this season. That's your prerogative. For me, this is a man's league. This is the National Hockey League. It's the most competitive, populated by the best players on planet Earth league in terms of what they do. And to me, like, if you're not ready to play in the National Hockey League, then don't play in the National Hockey League. If you're ready to play in the National Hockey League, for me, there is a level of expectation that comes with that. I'm not saying that Kirby Dach's got to, light the lamp and has to make the All-Star team. That's not what I'm saying. No, but to me, it's not the YMCA here. It's not Lac St. Louis House League hockey. You're playing in the NHL, not because your dad owns the team or your dad's coaching the team. Like, I want to see incremental growth. I want to see improvement. I don't want to see a player be stagnant, looking like they're lost all the time. No, that's not, I don't want to see that. But again, I'm not being a hard ass on Kirby Dach. You just want to be able to see incremental growth. And I think that's what I'm talking about with you today. I'm talking about the positive signs of Kirby Dach and how, the version of Dach we saw in October, November is not the same one we've seen in mid-December up until last night. Angela Esposito, good morning. Good morning, Sean. I thought the Habs had a strong game. They lost in the shootout, keeping Dallas to only one goal. Monte was amazing. I agree. Sam Montembeault again. It's so nice to see the goaltending stabilized here in Montreal. I wonder when the Canadiens are going to throw Jakub Dobeš out there again. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, because Jakub Dobeš, to me, looks like he's itching for a home game. He was asked by Martin Maguire on the French side after the win in Washington on Friday night, and the question to Dobeš from Martin Maguire in the room was along the lines of tough environment, playing on the road in Washington. Are you proud of how you performed? And Dobeš, man, this guy's got he's got a lot of things going for him. He does not lack confidence at all because he brushed off the question right away. He's like, no, there's no pressure. What pressure are you talking about? Pressure's playing in Montreal. That's what. But then Maguire, I like the fact that Martin Maguire, after Dobeš gave him that answer, pushed back. He's like, yeah, but in Montreal, they cheer for you. Washington, they're not cheering for you, Jakub. And Dobeš was like, listen, and I love this answer. Dobeš was like, we are the most prepared team in the National Hockey League because we play at the Bell Center 41 games a season. And that arena, more or less, is what Dobeš was saying, teaches the Montreal Canadiens how to play in a pressure-packed environment. Like, dude, I love that. I love that because it's been something I have said for what feels like 20 years in my career on TSN 690. I hate when opposing players talk about how much they love coming to Montreal to play the Canadiens. Oh, I love the environment. I love the building. I love the atmosphere. I want Montreal to be a miserable place for the best teams in hockey to play. I want Nikita Kucherov to be uncomfortable. I want Austin Matthews to be uncomfortable. I want Connor McDavid to be uncomfortable. I want Jamie Benn to be uncomfortable. So I love that attitude from Jakub Dobeš. Thanks for the comment this morning, Angela Esposito. Lots of comments. Here's Rick Springhetti. Rick Springhetti, proud member of the Sean Starr Show. And Rick, I'm gonna get after you here in a second. I hope you enjoyed the meal last night. Second, Habs are facing a challenging schedule against very good teams in a way. It's giving them experience of the playoff grind. That's a great perspective. I love the way you think about the Canadiens' schedule as it prepares them mentally and physically for the grind of a future playoff run, maybe as early as this spring. But Rick Springhetti there just alluded to, I hope you enjoyed your meal. Because last night, the members of the Sean Starr Show were having a members-only conversation on our YouTube page. And I had mentioned that my partner, she went out for a family dinner. I was home alone pretty much all night. I had the Canadiens to watch. I had an NFL playoff game to watch. And for me, that's a special night. I want something special to eat. So I threw it to the members of the Sean Starr Show. And all the boys were up in the chat saying, oh, do this, do that. They were all encouraging me to drink single malt scotch last night because they want me to get liquored up. And so Rick Springhetti threw out the idea of this great sandwich shop in Verdun. And they used to do a great sandwich. They've since changed their bread. It's more loafy. It's more bready. It's not as crunchy, as thin as it used to be. I don't think the bread at that sandwich shop in Verdun on Wellington's as good as it used to be. But Rick's suggestion was, listen, this place is open. Why don't you pick up some Uber Eats and get the sandwich? And I was like, dude, That's not a bad idea. I was craving something. I didn't want to eat fast food. Something bad, but also kind of good, I guess. So I had the sandwich. And Rick, I've been on the toilet. I've been on the toilet like 6 times this morning. So listen, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. I guess my stomach just couldn't handle it. So how about that? Some nice potty talk before 10 o'clock on this Sunday morning. More comments coming in. Let's see what you're all saying. Thank you for watching and being with us, by the way. Don't yell at each other, everybody. Everybody in their division plays the same schedule, absolutely. The schedule hasn't been too kind. The schedule of Four Nations tournament coming up next month has just been so congested. Naz26, Dach has been better the last 15 games. Habs aren't trading for a better center without trading players or prospects they don't want. Dach is the second-line center. You know what? There's nothing for me in the here and now that suggests that the Montreal Canadiens need to get away from Kirby Dach. No, I mean, you have guys like Chris and others in the chat suggesting that Kirby Dach more or less gets a ton of room to run on the leash before you kind of ring him back in for a second. And again, I look for small little signs because my expectations are still kind of low. Let's check back next year and see where our expectations are at. But today, on this 12th day of January, my expectations for players in the team are still kind of low. But I do want signs that make me believe that growth is coming, that player growth, individual growth is also coming. And I see that. I see that in Kirby Dach. I see that in Juraj Slafkovsky. Primo playing like he was at the end of last year. We spoke about that. Caden Primo, what a 977 save percentage, 2-0. I haven't been following the Laval Rocket in the last week and a half as closely as I should be. I'm not going to lie, but I did see that he is at 2-0 with a 977 save percentage. Thank you, Brad Wright, for that. Chris Hansen. Yeah, I said you wouldn't see the full Dach until next year. He literally had the worst knee injury possible. That's all. If you want a good center, go get Elias Pettersson. Hughes won't do it because he doesn't want to trade the pieces to get him. How many of you right now watching live want Elias Pettersson on the Montreal Canadiens? I'm not so sure I do. Today, in the here and now, and I don't want to see the Montreal Canadiens. And who? Because now we're talking blue chips. We're talking huge prospect names. We're talking clout. We're talking like the Canucks said no to Mika Zibanejad for JT Miller. That's the story. Who are the Canadiens going to have to give up a player like Elias Pettersson, bring that salary here? It's like, seriously. You know? And I don't know where the truth is. I don't know what the truth is. JT Miller, a bit of a hard-ass player. Elias Pettersson, not really that confrontational, doesn't like to be confronted by teammates. That's the word on the street. Again, the word on the street. I don't know what's really going on, but what I do know is where there's smoke, there's fire, and this story with the allegations that there's friction in the Canucks locker room between two-star players, it won't go away. That story has not gone away, and again, where there's smoke, there's fire, and the fact that the story continues to simmer, in the here and now, I'm kind of out on anybody from Vancouver today, because the Montreal Canadiens in year 3 of the rebuild are trying to build something special. They're trying to build a very special culture here, and I don't have an appetite for players that come here with baggage. I'm out. I am out today. I may live to regret that opinion, but I'm kind of out. Thanks for the comment. Let's see more comments coming in this morning. So many comments. Thank you, everybody. They have Michael Hage too. Too much cost to get Elias Pettersson. He is really, he's very overpaid. The playoff numbers are not great. So I'm like Costa here. Costa, stay the course. Pettersson is 26. His best is better than Suzuki at his best. It may be. Like, you say that like that, but again, hockey is such a team game. Nick Suzuki is an incredible spoke in the wheel that turns the Montreal Canadiens. And Nick Suzuki, you're right, maybe to a man, Elias Pettersson will have more career points and have more points in his best season than Nick Suzuki. But does he bring the intangibles that make him a well-rounded player, that make him fit seamlessly in the Montreal Canadiens environment? I don't know that about Elias Pettersson. I do know that about Nick Suzuki. He's the captain of this team and one of the most underrated players in hockey. I'm going to have more on that this week with my guest, Sean Campbell. We're going to talk about Laine Hudson. We're going to talk about trade rumors involving Jake Evans. And we're going to talk about the value of a Nick Suzuki. All that coming up this week right here with my guest, Sean Starr, starting tomorrow. So look out for that. I'll have videos out at 10 o'clock all day. So it's more than just taking a guy, plugging him in, and saying go. He's not a robot. The Montreal Canadiens are a living, breathing organism. And it's not anybody that could just come here. Because again, I hate the Boston Bruins from my childhood, but I love the Boston Bruins because I liked how they were made. I like their team camaraderie. I love their attitude. These are things I like, and I would like to see Montreal incorporate. And remember, I forget the player's name. Came out of college, a little bit. I think he had a pretty strong racist background, if memory serves me right, online or something like that. There was some tweets or opinion. And remember the Bruins gave him a contract, and they cut him once the bleep hit the fan because they have a culture, And I want to see the Canadiens, and I think that's what they're doing. They're trying to build this culture up that if it helps them win, that it's something they can use for years and years and years. Like championship caliber teams tend to do that. So more comments coming in. Sean, can you say something about Alex Newhook? I hardly notice him. I like Alex Newhook's game. I mean, Alex Newhook to me looks like a player who's finally found more confidence to his game and has helped round out the second line with Laine, who is back after missing 5 games and scored his 9th power play goal. All of his goals have come on the PP. And nice feed from Laine Hudson to Suzuki, who finds Laine to the back of the net. But the second line looks better, primarily, in my opinion, because Alex Newhook is playing with more confidence. I think outside of Laine Hudson, I like how Alex Newhook gains zone entries. He uses his speed to a weapon. More comments coming in. Brad Wright says, I would not want Elias Pettersson. You got Michael Hage and Ivan Demidov. And that's what we're talking about in part, right? Like, the Montreal Canadiens have guys on the come up, Like, we're talking about the future of Jake Evans in Montreal. Owen Beck, a very complete player. Looking at Michael Hage, probably, a few years away still in the NCAA. But don't forget, you saw Oliver Kapanen in Montreal before he was loaned back out to Europe. So, like, there's congestion. I keep telling y'all. Like, the Canadiens went through this auditioning process with their defensemen. The forward audition is coming, and it's going to have Oliver Kapanen. I don't know what Jake Evans' future is going to be with Montreal, out of Montreal, to be determined, right? But what if, hypothetically, Evans stays in Montreal? So you got Owen Beck, you got Jake Evans, you got Oliver Kapanen, you're going to have Michael Hage to deal with, So, by the way, that's a good thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's a very good thing. Ghislaine Laframboise, you want to build a team, superstars don't win Stanley Cups automatically. More coming in on Elias Pettersson from lots of people bringing this up here. Again, Hughes wouldn't do it because price is too high for him. Again, the Rangers allegedly offered Mika Zibanejad for JT Miller straight up, and Vancouver said thanks, but no thanks. Zeph, what's up? In the future, once Demidov settles in the lineup, Slav will move to the second line. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that one bit. And, I start to notice Juraj Slafkovsky is trying to play a more well-rounded game. I like his hockey IQ. His hockey IQ, for me, this week has been a lot better. And especially, I go back to him setting up Cole Caulfield's 23rd of the season on Friday night, where Laine Hudson was pinching down low. Slafkovsky made sure to cover up. So he manned the point. Puck found him. He found Cole Caulfield by to the side of the net, and it was past Logan Thompson. and in for his 23rd of the season. So Juraj Slafkovsky has been showing a little bit more hockey sense. I don't know if I could see him as an everyday top line player, but obviously, I mean, if he's not playing on your first line, like Zeph had mentioned, I believe he slides over and plays on your second line when everything is settled in Habs land all over again. Rick Springhetti, I think acquiring Pettersson would upset the team's structure salary-wise. Habs can't get guys signed to better deals, and they're being compared to Suzuki, who is signed to a good deal. That's an interesting perspective in terms of, the hierarchy of the Montreal Canadiens salary cap, because that's going to be put to the test, Rick, and everybody else that thinks along those lines, and I'm part of that group, right? Like Ivan Demidov's coming, and if you play the best case, worst case game, and we play the best case game, and Ivan Demidov comes in, rookie contract, and showing extreme promise and is living up to the hype. Like let's say he's the Laine Hudson of the forward position, and it's just like turning heads, getting national attention, being spoken about for Rookie of the Year type stuff, and he continues to build off of that. He is going to get paid. And are we going to be talking about Ivan Demidov having best case? Let's say Mitch Gallo's right when he said on my show months ago. Mitch Gallo believes, and he said, his words, not mine, lock it in 100 points. Lock it in. That's what Gallo said. Fine. So let's pretend Gallo's right. And Demidov is a 100-point guy and building. Now what? Now what do you do? You move the goalposts. That's what you do. You move the bleeping goalposts. Ivan Demidov is the new Nick Suzuki, and that is the gold standard. That's what I think happens in the best case scenario. I don't even want to talk about the worst case scenario. So yeah, more comments coming in. Yeah, Ryan Leonard. Me, and your sister would love to see Ryan Leonard in Montreal Costa. Would you re-sign Laine this offseason or take your chances in his walk year, says Neil. Neil, thank you so much for the comment this morning. I am not ready to see the Montreal Canadiens lock in Patrick Laine between you, me, and your dad. No, I'm not there yet. I was a little bit worried when I saw his game in the first period yesterday, but then I don't know what happened. Like, I don't know if he ate a bag of vitamin C or a bag of oranges or something, because he looked a lot faster and a little bit more dangerous. Part of me thought that Patrick Laine was... now I'm speculating. I'm going to speculate. Part of me thought Patrick Laine used his body to test it out in the first period. That's what it looked like to me. And then in the second period, he looked faster. Remember, he dropped, who is it, on Bach, whatever his name is. He absolutely crunched this poor kid along the half wall in the Canadiens' end. I mean, Patrick Laine dropped the hammer down. That was an awesome hit. And I think that's what made me believe Laine used the first period against Dallas to test his body out, and then when he felt like he could test it out and it passed the test in the second period and in the third, he looked faster to me. He just looked faster to me. And again, you saw him out there on 3-on-3. Patrick Laine on 3-on-3. Okay. Playing with fire, in my opinion. So, Neil, no, I wouldn't sign Patrick Laine. I would roll the dice and let's see what it's like in the walk year. And also, I mean, I got a lot of season left. That was game number 42 against Dallas. So I would roll the dice. I would gamble with Patrick Laine. Just my gut feel. Thanks for the comment, though. Costa says he doesn't have a sister. That's too bad, Costa. She'd be great. Steve, dog threw up. I had to wake up, so I'm awake over on the West Coast. I can watch this for the first time. Dude, sorry, Steve, that your dog threw up. What are we doing? We're doing some pumpkin puree and some rice to ease the stomach of your poor pupper. Let's see. Naz, the next player of equal talent to Suzuki will get 9% of the cap. The cap will be higher than their salary. That's a good point. And I don't want to put people to sleep talking about the salary cap and hockey-related revenues and everything else, but Naz hit the nail on the head. We need to reference less how much the cap hit is versus what the percentage of the cap that they occupy based on their salary. That to me is the more important number when we talk about building your hockey club and building it to win championships, not for these one-off fluky mama jamma type scenarios. It's about building it to be contending for years and years and years to come. And Naz hits the nail on the head. Let's focus a little bit more on the, oh, he makes 1.7 on the cap versus, oh, he occupies X amount percentage-wise of the salary cap. And then you can correlate that number with goals, assists, points. And then we can have a better understanding of, and that's what makes, successful teams. Like, let's use a dated reference. Let's talk about the Blackhawks for a second. The Chicago Blackhawks were getting, when they were, a mini dynasty and they were winning multiple championships, they were getting performances from younger players delivering like they were $8 million a year players. That's the magic recipe. So in other words, to bring it back, if Ivan Demidov hits the ice flying Brian style when he gets here next year and delivers, 75 points, 80 points in his rookie campaign, like just to go crazy for a second, if he does that, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a guy making $1 million but delivering point-wise like he's making $8 million. That's the magic. If you can get guys on rookie or small payday type deals, man, oh man, that's the magic recipe, right? Back to the chat. Thank you, Naz, for that comment. I appreciate that. Patrick Laine on Team Finland? I think he is. So is Yoel Armia. Steve, team looked really tired last night. Rest of the month is jam-packed. How many more times will we see team looking slower than usual? Again. Let me remind you about this. Dallas was rested, sitting here and waiting for the Montreal Canadiens to play that hockey game. Okay? Like the Dallas Stars schedule, prior to the Center, right? They played Thursday at Philadelphia. They left Philly, came to Montreal, chilled out, spent all day Friday in Montreal, getting their painted on the De La Commune in Old Montreal, because that's what tourists do. Montreal played in Washington, got back to the airport at 2:45 Saturday morning. So yes, they were tired. Again, to put it in context, Montreal allowed 17 shots on goal for the entire game Friday. The Capitals had 17 shots. They had 0 shots, 8:47 of the last 8:47 of the third period. Dallas came here last night and had 17 shots in the first period. Sam Montembeault stopped all of them. Sam Montembeault, excellent last night. Thank you for that. Back to your comments this morning. Costa likes that I interact. He appreciates that I interact with the audience. Even when the show is done, that makes me stand out. Yeah, listen, I have a way that I think about this. I'm doing this. I get asked this a lot. I'm doing this because I love to do it. It's a passion project. That's all it is. Just a project. Something I like to do in my downtime, okay? And to get a little personal, you know what I'm doing now? Okay? I got up this morning, made my breakfast, walked the dog. I've already done 2 loads of laundry. And as soon as this is done, I have a recording to do with Sean Campbell. Sean Campbell and I are going to go on for about 45 minutes this morning. We're going to talk about Laine Hutson's rookie season. We're going to talk about the Canadiens' first and second half, because that was the start of their second half last night. We're going to talk about a trade rumor involving Jake Evans. And then I'm going to go watch the NFL playoffs. That's what I'm doing today. And then Sean Campbell and I will have content on my YouTube channel all week. And then the Montreal Canadiens play Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. And I will have live shows on Wednesday and Friday. Oh, excuse me. And and more stuff with Sean Campbell in between those. So that's what's happening, okay? But yeah, it's a passion project. I love to do it. I have spare time. I'm not golfing. And I love talking with you, and I love talking about the Montreal Canadiens. So that's how we do it. Okay, baby? Thank you. Don't forget, Dallas is a very good hockey team. Yes, of course. Yeah, we're fully aware. And that's why, The Montreal Canadiens have gone through murderer's row here and come out clean, in my opinion, on the other side. And Dallas had been on the road for a week. Yeah, and what does that change? Dallas spent Friday in Montreal doing nothing, resting, relaxing, recovering from beating the Philadelphia Flyers before, So the Canadiens got back Saturday at 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. The Canadiens were tired. Dallas is a very good thing, a very good team. All of those things can be true, right? So nice to see Patrick Laine back after missing 5 games. The second line looks a little bit better. And Lane Hutson played 16 minutes after 40 minutes last night, more than 25 for the game, and remains just the brightest spot of this Montreal Canadiens season. He looks so good. He looks so good. And I can't wait to talk to Sean Campbell about him coming up. So thanks for watching, everybody. If you're looking for some NFL playoff picks tonight, starting at 1 o'clock today, I like the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are home as 8.5-point favorites against the Denver Broncos. If you're looking for some NFL action, here's what I kind of think happens here. I've had a good year picking with the Denver Broncos, 14-3 overall, 13-4 against the spread, picking Bronco games. Just not a fan. The Broncos defense is good enough to slow down Josh Allen, but I don't see an upset happening here. We could talk about rookie quarterbacks in the playoffs, rookie quarterbacks in the playoffs on the road. Only 3 rookie quarterbacks have won a road playoff game in NFL history. None have pulled it off since Russell Wilson did it when he was quarterbacking Seattle 12 years ago. So I'm not betting that Bo Nix is going to be the guy that leapfrogs Russell Wilson and pushes him out of the record book. And that's where Buffalo, I think, steps up, right? This is Josh Allen's team. This is Josh Allen's season. I like Buffalo to win. I don't think they cover the 8.5 points. So give me Buffalo by a touchdown over Denver. Moving over to the Green Bay Packers at Philadelphia Eagles game. You've got hurt guys up and down the field here on both sides. Jordan Love's hand, Jalen Hurts concussion, Josh Jacobs. So the Eagles home, where they were 8-1 this season. They're 5.5-point favorites. Kickoff is just after 7:30 today. Jalen Hurts is going to play. And as long as he plays, I think Philadelphia is going to be able to do enough to hold off Green Bay. But outside of that, it's going to be, Jalen Hurts is going to play, so there's no point in talking about this. The Eagles obviously have the NFL's leading rusher in Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, who ranks 6th in the league. So this should be a game for me. I love running backs. It's my favorite position on the football field. So give me a close game. I think Philadelphia wins, but doesn't cover the 5.5. I think Philadelphia beats Green Bay by 3 points. The later game tonight has Washington at Tampa Bay. This is just after 8 o'clock kickoff tonight. Tampa 5-4 at home, 10-7 overall. The Bucks modest favorites, favored by 3 against a 12-5 Commanders team that went 5-3 away from home. And will there be upsets? We already saw an upset in the first game where a botched snap turned the tides for the Houston Texans and just morphed into a completely different looking team and just embarrassed Harbaugh's LA Chargers. Justin Herbert threw 3 interceptions for the entirety of this season. He threw 4 in one game. Has that happened before, where a quarterback in one playoff game threw more interceptions in that game than he did throughout the course of 17 regular season games? That was crazy to me. So this should be a good one. Know this about Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay had 5 games against the 3 worst rushing defenses in football, and they went 5-0 in those games, outscoring their opposition by an average of 39-21. So basically what I'm saying is, if you can't stop Tampa Bay from running, it's going to be nearly impossible to beat them. That's why the Bucks are 7-1 this season when they rush for at least 140 yards. And that makes, I think, life a lot easier for Baker Mayfield to win this game. So with Washington's inability to stop the run, I think Jaden Daniels is extremely talented. I know this as a Bears fan. I've seen it with my own eyes. But as I said with Bo Nix earlier, I'm not trusting a rookie quarterback in a road playoff game. Tampa wins, high-scoring game. Give me the Bucks to win, the Bucks to cover. So there you go. Those are my 3 picks for NFL Sunday. And I know a lot of people don't like when I talk NFL. But that's where I'm at today. Joe Mama. What's up, Joe Mama? When I fly around for a week, I'm exhausted. Not sure how that translates to hockey teams, but I can't feel great. Listen, I don't want to make light of your comment. I understand travel is overrated. I get it. But these guys fly private. They don't go through the same customs BS that you and I go through. And like I said, yeah, they were in Philadelphia. They were in Philadelphia on Thursday. And then we're in, like they weren't in Fiji. Let me look here. So I don't want to pick on you, Joe Mama. But, you said something, and I'm just reacting to it. Let's see. New Year's Eve, home to Buffalo. January 2nd, home to Ottawa. January 4th, home to Utah. And then they hit the road. At Rangers, at Philly, at Montreal. Like, what are we talking about here? The longest trek they had to do was leave Dallas, Texas, to fly to New York. And then they went to New York to Philadelphia. Bro, people drive that all the time. And then they went from Philadelphia to Montreal. Let me look. Here, let me do this in real time. Flight time, Philly to Montreal. 1 hour and 40 minutes. Excuse for loser, as Michel Therrien used to say. New York, Philadelphia, Montreal. That is not on the road for a week, and that is not a grueling schedule. You know what a grueling schedule is? You want to know what a grueling schedule? I'm going to tell you what a grueling schedule is. Montreal Canadiens. Here, you want to talk about travel being tiring? How about this? Play at Chicago at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on a Friday night, and then go to Colorado to play at a 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on a Saturday. Now that's a schedule. That's a schedule. Montreal playing at Washington, flying home in 1 hour to play the next day against Dallas. Now you got me going, Joe Mama. The hiring schedule. Come on. Come on. Go Habs, go. Make sure you have time for the wife. The wife is at the gym, and then she's going to go help out her parents today out in the West Island. So thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed my NFL picks. Thank you so much for being a part of the live stream today. I greatly appreciate it. All your comments are seen and reacted to. And yeah, to Costa's point, if you take the time to watch, you take the time to engage, throw some comments, and throw some opinion in a respectful way. If you're respectful in the comment section, I have time. I will take the time to reply and just have some fun. Like, we're all Habs fans. We all cheering this team on this great season. As the Montreal Canadiens, my friends, get set for another busy week. Games Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. But since December the 3rd, Montreal has been tied for the 5th most points of any team, 12-5-1 since the 3rd of December, all right? So go Habs, go. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great Sunday. Enjoy your families. Enjoy the football if that's what you're going to be watching. And I'll see you tomorrow on the radio, 6 a.m. with me and Connor McKenna all week long. And I'll be here on the YouTube show all week long as well. So thanks again. Enjoy your